What if I told you that every limitation you've ever experienced, every goal you've failed to achieve, and every moment of self-doubt you've endured is not a reflection of your true potential, but simply the result of outdated programming in your brain? What if everything you believe about your capabilities, your intelligence, and your capacity for success was installed without your permission, and more importantly, can be completely rewritten? Right now, as you listen to these words, your brain is operating on neural pathways that were carved decades ago, many of them before you even had the awareness to question whether they served you. These pathways control everything: how you respond to challenges, whether you see opportunities or obstacles, your confidence levels, your ability to persist through difficulty, and ultimately, your capacity to achieve the success you desire. The shocking truth is that 95% of people will live their entire lives as prisoners of their own neural programming, never realizing that they have the power to completely rewire their brain for success. They will struggle with the same limitations, repeat the same self-sabotaging patterns, and wonder why success seems to come easily to others while remaining frustratingly out of reach for them. But you are not most people. The fact that you're here, ready to dive deep into the science of neuroplasticity and brain optimization, means you're among the 5% who are willing to take control of their mental architecture and redesign it for unstoppable growth. This audiobook is not about positive thinking, wishful hoping, or surface-level motivation. This is about the hard science of how your brain works, how it can be changed, and the specific techniques used by neuroscientists, peak performers, and success researchers to literally rewire neural pathways for achievement, confidence, and unlimited growth. By the time you finish this journey, you will understand exactly how to identify and eliminate the neural patterns that have been holding you back, install new pathways that automatically drive you toward success, and create a brain that doesn't just think about achievement, but is fundamentally wired for it. The transformation starts now. And once you understand how to control your own neural programming, there will be no limit to what you can achieve. Chapter 1. The Prison of Outdated Programming. Your brain is the most sophisticated computer ever created, capable of processing millions of bits of information per second, storing vast amounts of data, and making complex calculations that would overwhelm the most advanced artificial intelligence systems. Yet for most people, this incredible machine is running on software that was installed decades ago, often without their knowledge or consent. From the moment you were born, your brain began recording everything. Every word spoken to you, every emotion felt in your presence, every success and failure you witnessed, every limitation you were told existed. By the age of 7, neuroscientists estimate that 95% of your core beliefs about yourself and the world were already programmed into your subconscious mind. Think about this for a moment. The beliefs that currently govern your behavior, your confidence levels, your willingness to take risks, and your expectations of what's possible were largely formed before you had the critical thinking skills to evaluate whether they were true or beneficial. If you grew up hearing that money was hard to come by, your brain installed that as a fundamental truth. If you were told that only certain types of people become successful, that became part of your operating system. If you experienced failure and heard that you weren't good enough, smart enough, or talented enough, those judgments became embedded in your neural architecture. The most insidious part of this process is that these early programs don't announce themselves. They don't say, "This is just a belief that was installed when you were 5 years old." Instead, they feel like absolute truth. They feel like reality itself. When your programmed brain tells you that you're not capable of achieving something, it doesn't feel like an opinion. It feels like a fact about the world. This is why so many intelligent, capable, hardworking people struggle to break through to the next level of success. It's not because they lack ability, effort, or desire. It's because they're operating with neural software that was designed for a different version of themselves, often a much younger, more vulnerable version that needed protection from disappointment rather than programming for achievement. Consider this: every time you've hesitated before taking action on an opportunity, that hesitation came from a neural pathway. Every time you've doubted your abilities despite evidence of your competence, that doubt originated in your brain's wiring. Every time you felt that success was something that happened to other people, but not to you, that feeling was generated by specific patterns in your neural network. The revolutionary discovery of neuroplasticity has shown us that none of this programming is permanent. Your brain remains malleable throughout your entire life, capable of forming new neural pathways and reorganizing existing ones. The same brain that learned to doubt can learn to believe. The same neural networks that generated fear can be rewired to generate confidence. The same mental patterns that created limitation can be transformed to create unlimited potential. But here's what most people don't understand. Your brain won't rewire itself automatically. It won't suddenly decide that it's time to upgrade your mental software. The outdated programming will continue running indefinitely unless you consciously choose to interrupt it and install something better. This is where most people get stuck. They recognize that they want to change. They may even understand that their current thinking patterns aren't serving them, but they don't know how to actually rewire their brain. They try affirmations, positive thinking, or willpower. And when these surface-level approaches fail to create lasting change, they conclude that transformation isn't possible for them. The truth is that rewiring your brain requires specific techniques, consistent application, and an understanding of how neural pathways are actually formed and strengthened. It's not about thinking positive thoughts. It's about creating new neural highways through deliberate practice, repetition, and strategic conditioning. When you master the science of neuroplasticity and apply it systematically to your own mental programming, something extraordinary happens. The beliefs that once limited you begin to fade. The confidence that once seemed impossible starts to feel natural. The success that once appeared to be reserved for others becomes your new normal. But first, you must understand exactly how your current programming was installed and why it has such a powerful hold over your behavior. Only then can you begin the process of conscious reprogramming that will transform your brain into a success-generating machine. Chapter 2. How your brain creates your reality. Most people believe that they see the world as it actually is. Their perceptions are accurate reflections of objective reality. This is one of the most profound misconceptions about human consciousness. The truth is that your brain doesn't show you reality. It shows you an interpretation of reality that has been filtered, edited, and constructed based on your existing neural programming. Every second, your brain is bombarded with approximately 11 million bits of sensory information. Your conscious mind, however, can only process about 40 bits per second. This means that 99.999% of available information is filtered out before it ever reaches your conscious awareness. The question that determines your entire life experience is this: what criteria does your brain use to decide what information gets through and what gets ignored? The answer lies in a network of neurons called the reticular activating system, or RAS. This neurological filter acts as the gatekeeper of your consciousness, determining what you notice and what remains invisible to you. And here's the crucial point. Your RAS is programmed by your beliefs, expectations, and past experiences. If your brain has been programmed to believe that opportunities are scarce, your RAS will filter out evidence of abundance and highlight every piece of information that confirms scarcity. If you've been conditioned to expect failure, your attention will be drawn to risks and obstacles, while potential paths to success remain unseen. If your neuroprogramming tells you that you're not the type of person who achieves great things, Your RAS will literally blind you to possibilities that could transform your life. This is why two people can walk through the exact same environment and have completely different experiences. One person might see opportunities everywhere, potential business ventures, networking possibilities, chances for growth and learning. Another person might see only obstacles, competition, and reasons why success is unlikely. They're not looking at different worlds. They're processing the same world through different neural filters. The implications of this are staggering. Your current financial situation, your relationships, your career trajectory, your health, your confidence levels, all of these are not just random outcomes or fixed circumstances. They are the direct result of what your brain has been programmed to notice, expect, and create. Understanding this gives you incredible power. Once you realize that your perception of reality is constructed by your neural programming, you can begin to consciously reprogram your brain to create a different experience of life. Instead of being a passive victim of your conditioning, you can become the active architect of your own mental software. But the RAS is just one part of how your brain creates your reality. Your neural networks also generate what neuroscientists call predictive processing. Your brain is constantly making predictions about what will happen next, and these predictions heavily influence what you actually experience. If your brain predicts that you'll be rejected, you'll unconsciously behave in ways that increase the likelihood of rejection. If it predicts that you'll fail, you'll notice evidence that supports that prediction while missing information that suggests success is possible. If it predicts that you're not capable of achieving something, it will generate thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that align with that prediction. This is not conscious self-sabotage. This is your brain trying to create consistency between its predictions and your actual experience. From your brain's perspective, being right about a negative prediction is safer than being wrong about a positive one. It would rather keep you small and safe than risk the unknown territory of growth and success. Your emotional responses are also generated by your neural programming. When you feel anxious about taking risks, that anxiety isn't necessarily a reflection of actual danger. It's your brain's programmed response to uncertainty. When you feel unworthy of success, that feeling isn't based on objective truth. It's the result of neural pathways that were carved by past experiences or inherited beliefs. Even your sense of identity is constructed by your brain's programming. The person you believe yourself to be, your strengths, weaknesses, capabilities, and limitations is not a fixed reality, but a neural construct that can be modified. The stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of are running on mental software that you can upgrade. This understanding is simultaneously humbling and empowering. It's humbling because it reveals how much of what you've considered to be absolute truth about yourself and the world is actually just programming. It's empowering because it means that any limitation you've accepted as permanent is actually changeable. The brain's neuroplasticity ensures that new neural pathways can be created at any age, while old, unused pathways gradually weaken. This means you can literally rewire your brain to create a new reality. You can program your RAS to notice opportunities instead of obstacles. You can train your predictive processing to expect success instead of failure. You can condition your emotional responses to generate confidence instead of fear. But this transformation doesn't happen through wishful thinking or positive affirmations alone. It requires a systematic approach to neural reprogramming that works with your brain's natural learning mechanisms rather than against them. Chapter 3. The Science of Neuroplasticity. For most of human history, scientists believed that the adult brain was essentially fixed, that neural development was complete by early adulthood, and that significant change in mental capabilities or personality was impossible. This belief shaped everything from educational approaches to psychological treatments, and it condemned millions of people to accept limitations as permanent realities. The discovery of neuroplasticity has revolutionized our understanding of human potential. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to reorganize itself physically and functionally throughout your entire life. It can form new neural connections, strengthen existing ones, and even generate new neurons in certain regions. This means that your brain is not a static computer running fixed software. It's a dynamic, adaptable system that continuously rewrites itself based on your experiences, thoughts, and behaviors. Dr. Norman Deutsch, a leading researcher in neuroplasticity, has documented cases of people completely transforming their mental capabilities through targeted neural training. Stroke patients who lost the ability to speak have rewired their brains to communicate fluently again. People born with learning disabilities have developed exceptional abilities in areas where they were once considered hopeless. Adults who struggled with confidence and motivation have transformed into high achievers by systematically rewiring their neural patterns. The key insight from neuroplasticity research is that your brain changes every day. Whether you're conscious of it or not, every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every behavior you engage in is either strengthening existing neural pathways or creating new ones. The question is not whether your brain is changing, it's whether you're directing that change toward your goals or allowing it to happen randomly. Neuroscientists have identified several key principles that govern how neural rewiring occurs. Repetition is the fundamental driver of neuroplasticity. When you repeat a thought, emotion, or behavior, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with it. This is why habits become automatic and why practice skills become effortless. But it also means that repeated negative thoughts, chronic worry, or consistent self-doubt literally carve deeper grooves in your brain, making these patterns more likely to occur in the future. Attention and focus amplify neuroplastic change. When you pay deliberate attention to something, you increase the likelihood that your brain will form strong neural connections related to it. This is why mindful practice is more effective than mindless repetition. When you consciously focus on developing confidence, for example, you accelerate the formation of neural pathways associated with confident thoughts and behaviors. Emotional intensity accelerates neural rewiring. Experiences that generate strong emotions create stronger neural imprints than neutral experiences. This is why traumatic events can have lasting impacts, but it also means that you can leverage positive emotions to accelerate beneficial changes. In your brain, when you combine new thoughts or behaviors with feelings of excitement, gratitude, or accomplishment, you strengthen the neural pathways much more rapidly. Challenge and novelty stimulate neuroplastic growth. Your brain creates new neural connections most readily when it encounters new challenges or unfamiliar situations. This is why stepping outside your comfort zone is so crucial for personal growth. It literally forces your brain to build new neural pathways to handle the novel circumstances. Rest and consolidation are essential for neural rewiring, while active practice initiates neuroplastic changes. Sleep and relaxation periods are when your brain consolidates these new patterns and integrates them into your existing neural network. This is why consistent sleep and recovery are crucial for sustainable transformation. The implications of these principles are profound. They mean that you can literally sculpt your brain to generate the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that lead to success. You can weaken neural pathways associated with self-doubt, fear, and limitation, while strengthening pathways connected to confidence, resilience, and achievement. But neuroplasticity also reveals why change is often difficult, and why most people's attempts at transformation fail. If you've been thinking, feeling, and behaving in certain ways for years or decades, those neural pathways have become superhighways in your brain. Changing them requires consistent effort over time, not just temporary motivation or sporadic attempts at improvement. The good news is that your brain is designed to change. Every time you choose a different thought, generate a new emotion, or engage in a novel behavior, You're literally rewiring your neural architecture. The process is not always comfortable. Breaking old neural patterns can feel strange, difficult, or even frightening, but it is always possible. Modern neuroscience has also revealed specific techniques that can accelerate neuroplastic change. Visualization activates the same neural networks as actual experience, allowing you to practice new patterns mentally before implementing them behaviorally. Meditation increases neuroplasticity and strengthens areas of the brain associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. Physical exercise promotes the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports the growth of new neural connections. Perhaps most importantly, neuroplasticity research has shown that belief itself affects neural change. When you truly believe that transformation is possible, your brain becomes more receptive to rewiring. Conversely, if you doubt your ability to change, you actually impede the neuroplastic process. This means that the journey of rewiring your brain for success begins with understanding and internalizing the scientific fact that your brain can change. You are not stuck with the mental patterns you currently have. You are not limited by your past programming. You have the power to consciously direct your brain's natural plasticity toward creating the mental architecture of success. Chapter 4. Identifying your current neural programming before you can rewire your brain for success. You must first understand the specific programming that's currently running in your mental operating system. Most people are completely unconscious of their neural patterns, operating on autopilot according to programs they've never examined or questioned. This lack of awareness is precisely what keeps them trapped in cycles of limitation and unfulfilled potential. Your current neural programming reveals itself through 4 primary channels: your automatic thoughts, your emotional patterns, your behavioral tendencies, and your results. Each of these provides crucial information about the underlying beliefs and neural pathways that are shaping your experience of life. Your automatic thoughts are the mental commentary that runs continuously in the background of your consciousness. These are not the thoughts you deliberately choose to think, but rather the spontaneous mental reactions that arise in response to situations, challenges, and opportunities. Pay attention to what your mind automatically says when you encounter a potential opportunity. Does it immediately start listing reasons why it won't work, why you're not qualified, or why it's too risky? Or does it begin exploring possibilities and developing strategies for success? Notice the language patterns in your automatic thinking. Do you frequently use words like can't, impossible, never, or always when describing your capabilities or circumstances? Do you catch yourself thinking thoughts like, I'm not good at this, that's too hard for me, or I don't have what it takes? These linguistic patterns reveal deep neural programming that may be sabotaging your success before you even take action. Your emotional patterns provide another window into your neural programming. How do you typically feel when faced with challenges, opportunities, or uncertainty? Do you feel excited and energized, or anxious and overwhelmed? Do you approach new situations with confidence and curiosity, or with fear and doubt? Your emotional responses are generated by neural pathways that have been carved by past experiences and conditioned over time. Pay particular attention to your emotional responses to success-related situations. How do you feel when you imagine achieving your biggest goals? Do you notice feelings of unworthiness, fear, or skepticism? These emotions are revealing neural programming that may be blocking your progress. Many people are surprised to discover that they have unconscious resistance to the very success they consciously desire. Your behavioral patterns are perhaps the most accurate reflection of your underlying neural programming. Despite what you might consciously believe about yourself, your habitual behaviors reveal what your brain has actually been programmed to do. Do you consistently take action on opportunities, or do you tend to hesitate and procrastinate? Do you persist through challenges, or do you give up when things become difficult? Do you invest in your growth and development, or do you avoid situations that might stretch your capabilities? Look particularly at your patterns around money, relationships, health, and career advancement. These areas often reveal the deepest programming because they involve fundamental beliefs about what you deserve, what's possible for you, and what kind of person you are. Your results, your current financial situation, the quality of your relationships, your health, your career trajectory are the ultimate output of your neural programming. While external circumstances certainly play a role, your consistent results over time reveal the patterns that your brain has been programmed to create. If you consistently struggle in certain areas despite conscious effort and good intentions, there's likely unconscious programming working against your desired outcomes. One of the most revealing exercises you can do is to examine the gap between your conscious goals and your actual results. Where you see consistent gaps, you can be certain that there's unconscious programming that needs to be identified and rewired to make this process more systematic. Spend time over the next week documenting your automatic thoughts, emotional responses, and behavioral choices in key situations. When you encounter an opportunity, notice what your mind immediately tells you about it. When you face a challenge, observe your emotional state and your behavioral response. When you think about your biggest goals, pay attention to what thoughts and feelings arise. Many people are shocked by what they discover during this examination. They realize that despite consciously wanting success, their automatic thoughts are predominantly negative. Despite claiming to believe in their potential, their emotional responses reveal deep-seated doubt. Despite setting ambitious goals, their behaviors consistently pull them away from those objectives. This awareness, while sometimes uncomfortable, is the essential first step in transformation. You cannot change what you're not aware of, and you cannot rewire programming that you haven't identified. The neural patterns that run your life become powerless the moment you bring them into conscious awareness and decide to change them. Some of the most common limiting programs include: success requires sacrifice of everything else important. I don't deserve to have more than others. If I succeed, people will expect too much from me. It's selfish to want more. I'm not smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough. Success is for other people, not people like me, and if I try and fail, it will prove I'm inadequate. Once you've identified your specific limiting programs, you can begin the systematic process of rewiring them. But identification alone is not enough. You must understand why these programs developed and what positive intention they may have been serving, even if they're now holding you back. Every piece of neural programming, even limiting beliefs, developed for a reason. Understanding that reason helps you rewire more effectively, because you can address the underlying need while changing the programming to serve you better. Chapter 5. Breaking the patterns that hold you back. Identifying your limiting neural programming is crucial, but it's only the first step. Now comes the more challenging work of actually interrupting and breaking the patterns that have been running your life. This process requires understanding how neural patterns maintain themselves and developing specific techniques to disrupt them before they can be replaced with more empowering programming. Neural patterns persist because they operate below the threshold of conscious awareness and they feel familiar, which your brain interprets as safe. Your brain's primary job is to keep you alive, and from a survival perspective, familiar patterns are safer than unknown possibilities. Even if those familiar patterns are limiting your potential, every time you automatically think a limiting thought, feel a disempowering emotion, or engage in self-sabotaging behavior, you're strengthening the neural pathway associated with that pattern. The pattern becomes more entrenched, more automatic, and more resistant to change. This is why simply trying to think positive thoughts or use willpower to overcome limiting patterns rarely works. You're trying to fight established neural superhighways with conscious effort alone. Breaking these patterns requires what neuroscientists call pattern interruption, consciously disrupting the automatic sequence before it can complete itself. The key is to catch the pattern in the moment it's beginning to run and intervene, before it gains momentum. The first technique is developing what researchers call metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own thinking process. As it happens, this means learning to step back from your thoughts and emotions and observe them as mental events rather than absolute truths. Instead of being caught up in the thought, "I'm not good enough for this opportunity," you learn to recognize, "I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough for this opportunity." This subtle shift creates psychological distance between you and your programming, giving you the space needed to choose a different response. When you recognize that limiting thoughts are just mental events generated by old programming rather than accurate assessments of reality, they lose much of their power over you. The second technique is immediate pattern disruption. The moment you catch yourself running a limiting pattern, you interrupt it with a predetermined action. This could be a physical gesture like snapping your fingers, a mental command like stop, or a reframing question like, "What would I think about this if I were already successful?" The specific interruption method matters less than the consistency of applying it. Every time you notice the pattern beginning, physical movement is particularly effective for pattern interruption because it engages different neural networks and can literally shake you out of the mental state associated with a limiting pattern. Some people find that standing up, taking a deep breath, or doing jumping jacks effectively disrupts negative thought spirals. The third technique involves questioning the validity and usefulness of the limiting pattern. When you catch yourself in a limiting thought or emotional pattern, ask yourself, is this thought actually true? What evidence do I have for and against this belief? How is this pattern serving me? What would I accomplish if I didn't have this limitation? What would someone who's already achieved my goals think about this situation? These questions force your brain to examine the pattern from different angles and often reveal that the limiting belief is not based on current reality, but on outdated information or past experiences that are no longer relevant. The fourth technique is developing alternative response patterns. Instead of just trying to stop limiting patterns, you need to have empowering alternatives ready to implement. When you catch yourself thinking, "I can't do this," you immediately shift to, "I'm learning how to do this," or "I can figure this out." When you notice fear about taking action, you redirect to, "This feeling means I'm growing," or "I'm excited about the possibilities." These alternative patterns need to be practiced in advance so they're readily available when you need them. You can't develop new neural pathways in the heat of the moment. You need to train them during calm periods so they're accessible when challenging situations arise. The fifth technique involves changing your physiology to interrupt emotional patterns. Your thoughts, emotions, and physical state are interconnected through what neuroscientists call embodied cognition. When you change your posture, breathing, or facial expression, you can directly influence your mental and emotional state. Research shows that standing in confident postures for just 2 minutes can increase testosterone levels and decrease cortisol, creating a more confident and assertive mental state. Similarly, controlled breathing techniques can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing anxiety and creating space for more resourceful thinking. The most important principle in breaking limiting patterns is consistency. These patterns have been strengthened through thousands of repetitions over years or decades. Breaking them requires consistent interruption over weeks and months until the new patterns become stronger than the old ones. Many people give up on this process too early because they expect immediate results. They interrupt a limiting pattern a few times and then become discouraged when it keeps recurring. Understanding that pattern breaking is a gradual process of weakening old neural pathways, while strengthening new ones helps maintain the persistence necessary for lasting change. It's also crucial to be patient and compassionate with yourself during this process. The fact that old patterns keep showing up doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human and your brain is operating according to its natural tendencies. Every time you successfully interrupt a limiting pattern, you're making progress. Even if the pattern returns later, the goal is not to eliminate all limiting thoughts and emotions. That's neither possible nor necessary. The goal is to reduce their frequency and intensity while developing the ability to choose your response rather than being controlled by automatic programming. Chapter 6. Installing New Success Programming. Once you've begun the process of breaking limiting patterns, you need to actively install new neural programming that supports your success. Your brain abhors a vacuum if you simply remove old programming without replacing it with something better. Your mind will either revert to the familiar patterns or create new problems to fill the space. Installing new success programming requires understanding how your brain learns and forms new neural pathways. Unlike breaking old patterns, which involves weakening existing connections, creating new programming involves building entirely new neural networks from scratch. This process requires repetition, emotional intensity, and strategic conditioning. The first principle of installing new programming is specificity. Vague desires for success or confidence don't provide your brain with clear instructions for what neural pathways to build. Instead, you need to define exactly what thoughts, emotions, and behaviors you want to become automatic. For example, instead of wanting to be more confident, you might specify, when I encounter opportunities, I automatically think about possibilities. Rather than obstacles, I feel excited and energized rather than anxious. I take action within 24 hours rather than overthinking and procrastinating. This level of specificity gives your brain a clear blueprint for what new programming to install. The second principle is emotional engagement. Your brain prioritizes information that has emotional significance, so new programming that's connected to strong positive emotions will be learned much faster than purely intellectual concepts. When you practice new thought patterns, you need to generate the emotions that would naturally accompany those thoughts in real-life situations. If you're installing programming for financial success, don't just think thoughts about abundance. Feel the emotions of gratitude, excitement, and satisfaction that would accompany financial freedom. If you're developing confidence programming, embody the feelings of certainty, capability, and self-assurance that confident people experience. The third principle is repetition with variation. While repetition strengthens neural pathways, doing exactly the same thing repeatedly can cause your brain to stop paying attention. Instead, you need to practice your new programming in multiple contexts and with slight variations to ensure it generalizes to real-world situations. Practice your new confidence programming while imagining different scenarios, job interviews, presentations, networking events, difficult conversations. Visualize yourself succeeding in various circumstances, not just one ideal situation. This builds robust neural networks that can function across multiple contexts. The fourth principle is progressive conditioning. You can't install completely new programming overnight because it would be too far from your current neural baseline. Instead, you need to gradually condition your brain to accept increasingly empowering thoughts and beliefs. If your current programming tells you, "I never succeed at anything," you can't immediately jump to, "I always succeed at everything," because your brain will reject it as unrealistic. Instead, you might progress through stages. Sometimes I succeed. Then I succeed more often than I fail. Then I consistently find ways to succeed. And finally, success is my natural state. Mental rehearsal is one of the most powerful techniques for installing new programming. Your brain doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences. Both create neural pathways. Olympic athletes have used mental rehearsal for decades. And brain scans show that imagining physical actions activates the same neural networks as actually performing those actions to use mental rehearsal effectively. Create detailed visualizations of yourself thinking, feeling, and behaving according to your new success programming. See yourself encountering challenging situations and responding with confidence and competence. Imagine achieving your goals and experience the emotions of accomplishment and fulfillment. Make these visualizations as vivid and detailed as possible, engaging all your senses. Affirmations can be effective for installing new programming, but only when used correctly. Most people repeat affirmations mechanically without emotional engagement or belief, which makes them ineffective. For affirmations to rewire your brain, they must be stated with conviction, emotional intensity, and aligned with actions. Instead of passively repeating, "I am confident," declare it with the energy and certainty of someone who genuinely believes it. Feel the confidence in your body, adopt confident posture, and immediately take actions that reinforce the affirmation. The combination of mental repetition, emotional engagement, and behavioral alignment creates powerful neural conditioning. Identity-based programming is particularly powerful because it targets your core sense of self rather than just surface-level behaviors. Instead of trying to act confident, you reprogram yourself to be a confident person. Instead of trying to make more money, you become someone who naturally creates wealth. Instead of trying to be successful, you embody the identity of a successful person. This approach works because behavior flows from identity. When you truly see yourself as a successful person, you automatically think and act in ways that successful people think and act. The behaviors become natural expressions of who you are rather than forced attempts to be someone you're not. Environmental conditioning accelerates the installation of new programming. Surround yourself with people, information, and experiences that reinforce your new neural patterns. If you're installing abundance programming, immerse yourself in content about wealth creation. Spend time with financially successful people, and put yourself in environments where abundance is the norm. Your environment provides constant input to your subconscious mind, either reinforcing old programming or supporting new patterns. By consciously designing your environment to align with your desired programming, you create consistent conditioning that accelerates neural rewiring. Asterisk. The key to successful programming installation is consistency over intensity. It's better to practice your new patterns for 10 minutes every day than for 2 hours once a week. Your brain learns through consistent repetition, and daily practice ensures that the new programming becomes stronger than the old patterns. Track your progress by monitoring your automatic thoughts, emotional responses, and spontaneous behaviors. As new programming takes hold, you'll notice that empowering thoughts start arising without effort. Confident emotions become more frequent. Then success-oriented behaviors begin feeling natural rather than forced. Chapter 7. The Neuroscience of Confidence. Confidence is not a personality trait or a fixed characteristic. It's a neural state that can be systematically developed through understanding and applying the neuroscience of self-assurance. When you observe genuinely confident people, you're seeing the external expression of specific neural patterns that generate certainty, self-trust, and the willingness to take action despite uncertainty. Research in neuroscience has revealed that confidence is associated with specific patterns of brain activity. Confident individuals show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for executive function and decision-making, while showing decreased activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. This neurological signature creates the mental state we recognize as confidence, clear thinking. Combined with emotional calm, understanding the neuroscience of confidence allows you to deliberately create these brain states. Rather than waiting for confidence to magically appear, you can train your brain to generate the neural patterns associated with confidence, making self-assurance a skill rather than hoping it will be a gift. The first component of neural confidence is self-trust, which is based on your brain's assessment of your past successes and capabilities. Every time you succeed at something, even something small, your brain records that success as evidence of your competence. Conversely, every perceived failure gets recorded as evidence of inadequacy. Over time, your brain develops a success-failure ratio that determines your baseline confidence level. Most people unknowingly sabotage their confidence by focusing disproportionately on their failures while dismissing or minimizing their successes. They remember in vivid detail every mistake, embarrassment, or disappointment while barely acknowledging their accomplishments. This creates a neural database that supports doubt rather than confidence. To rewire your brain for confidence, you need to systematically rebuild this internal database. Start documenting every success, no matter how small. Did you have a good conversation with someone? That's evidence of social competence. Did you complete a challenging task? That's proof of your capability. Did you overcome a fear to take action? That demonstrates courage and growth. The key is to emotionally experience these successes rather than just intellectually acknowledging them. When you achieve something, take time to feel the satisfaction, pride, and accomplishment. These positive emotions strengthen the neural pathways associated with success and competence, building a foundation of confidence that becomes increasingly unshakable. The second component is outcome. Independence, the ability to take action without attachment to specific results. Paradoxically, true confidence comes not from guaranteeing success, but from knowing you can handle whatever outcomes arise. When your sense of self-worth and identity depend on achieving particular results, you become hesitant to take risks because failure would threaten your self-concept. Neural confidence is built by training your brain to separate your identity from your outcomes. You can be a valuable, capable person, regardless of whether any particular venture succeeds or fails. This doesn't mean you don't care about results. It means your self-worth isn't contingent on them. Practice this by deliberately engaging in activities where failure is possible and reframing any unsuccessful outcomes as learning experiences rather than reflections of your worth. Every time you take action despite uncertainty and handle whatever results occur with grace, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with confidence. The third component is competence building through deliberate skill development. While confidence shouldn't depend entirely on competence, having actual skills and abilities provides a solid foundation for self-assurance. Your brain recognizes genuine capability and generates confidence accordingly. The most effective approach is to systematically develop skills in areas that matter to your goals. If you want financial success, invest in learning about business, investing, or valuable skills. If you want relationship success, study communication, psychology, and social dynamics. If you want career advancement, develop expertise in your field and leadership abilities. As your competence grows, your brain has genuine evidence to support confidence. This creates an upward spiral where increased skill leads to greater confidence, which leads to more ambitious actions, which leads to further skill development. The fourth component involves training your internal dialogue to support confidence rather than undermine it. The constant commentary running in your mind either reinforces confidence or erodes it. Most people have internal dialogues that would be considered abusive if they came from another person. Yet they accept these destructive thought patterns as normal. Confident neural programming requires changing this internal dialogue to one that supports and encourages you. This doesn't mean unrealistic, positive thinking. It means fair, balanced, and constructive self-talk. Instead of "I always mess things up," you might think "I've learned from past mistakes and I'm getting better." Instead of "I can't do this," you could think "I can learn how to do this." The fifth component is developing what researchers call confidence triggers, specific physical, mental, or emotional states that automatically activate confident neural patterns. These might include particular postures, breathing patterns, mental phrases, or visualization techniques that consistently generate confident feelings. Athletes often use confidence triggers before competition, specific routines, or mental techniques that activate peak performance states. You can develop similar triggers for challenging situations in your life. The key is to practice these triggers during calm periods so they're readily available when you need them. Physical posture has a direct impact on confidence through what scientists call embodied cognition. Standing tall, making eye contact, speaking clearly, and taking up appropriate space all send signals to your brain that activate confident neural patterns. Conversely, slouching, avoiding eye contact, and making yourself small trigger neural patterns associated with insecurity. Confidence is also contagious through mirror neurons, specialized brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe others performing the same action. Spending time around genuinely confident people helps train your brain to adopt similar neural patterns. Conversely, surrounding yourself with insecure, negative, or fearful people can undermine your confidence development. The key to developing unshakable confidence is consistency in applying these neuroscience principles. Like any neural rewiring process, building confidence requires persistent practice over time. Every confident thought, emotion, and action you choose strengthens the neural pathways associated with self-assurance. Most importantly, understand that confidence is not about never feeling fear or doubt. It's about taking action despite those feelings. True confidence includes the ability to feel uncertain and act anyway, to face potential failure and move forward regardless, to encounter challenges and trust in your ability to figure things out. Chapter 8. Rewiring for Resilience and Mental Toughness. Mental toughness and resilience are not innate personality traits reserved for a select few. They are neural capabilities that can be systematically developed through specific brain training techniques. When you examine the brains of highly resilient individuals, you find distinct patterns of neural activity that enable them to bounce back from setbacks, maintain focus under pressure, and persist through difficulties that would overwhelm most people. Resilience, from a neuroscience perspective, is the brain's ability to maintain optimal function under stress, while quickly returning to baseline after challenging experiences. This involves specific neural networks working in coordination, the prefrontal cortex maintaining executive control, the anterior cingulate cortex managing attention and emotion regulation, and the hippocampus processing and contextualizing stressful experiences. The first component of neural resilience is stress inoculation. Deliberately exposing yourself to manageable levels of challenge and difficulty to strengthen your brain's stress response systems. Just as physical muscles grow stronger when challenged with resistance training, your neural resilience networks become more robust when regularly exercised with appropriate stressors. This doesn't mean seeking unnecessary hardship, but rather systematically putting yourself in situations that stretch your comfort zone and require you to cope with uncertainty, pressure, or difficulty. Each time you successfully navigate a challenging situation, your brain builds evidence of your capability to handle stress, creating neural pathways that support resilience rather than fragility. Professional athletes, musicians, and other peak performers often train sustained attention through what's called deliberate practice, focusing intensely on specific aspects of their craft for extended periods. This not only improves their skills, but also strengthens their neural networks for sustained attention. Practice sustained attention by choosing challenging but achievable tasks that require continuous focus. Reading complex material, learning new skills, or working on creative projects all provide excellent training for sustained attention. The key is to push beyond your comfort zone while maintaining quality of attention rather than just going through the motions. The third component is divided attention, the ability to manage multiple streams of information simultaneously. While Multitasking is generally ineffective for complex tasks. There are situations where you need to monitor multiple inputs while maintaining primary focus on your main objective. This skill is particularly important for leadership, where you need to track multiple aspects of projects, teams, and objectives simultaneously. Train divided attention by practicing activities that require monitoring several variables at once while maintaining performance standards in your primary task. The fourth component is executive attention, your brain's ability to resolve conflicts between different attention demands and maintain focus on long-term goals despite short-term temptations. This is controlled by networks involving the prefrontal cortex and anterior cingulate cortex. Executive attention is what allows you to maintain focus on important but not urgent tasks when there are more immediately compelling distractions available. It's what enables you to work on long-term projects when there are emails to check, social media to browse, or easier tasks to complete. Strengthen executive attention through deliberate practice choosing long-term rewards over short-term impulses. This might involve working on your most important project before checking email, completing difficult tasks before easier ones, or investing time in learning and development rather than passive entertainment. Meditation is one of the most scientifically validated methods for training attention. Regular meditation practice strengthens the neural networks responsible for attention while reducing activity in the default mode network, the brain circuits responsible for mind-wandering and distraction. Even 10 to 15 minutes of daily meditation can produce measurable improvements in attention span, focus quality, and resistance to distraction. The key is consistency rather than duration. Daily practice is more effective than occasional long sessions. Physical exercise also plays a crucial role in attention training. Cardiovascular exercise increases the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor BDNF, which supports the growth of new neural connections. It also improves executive function and cognitive flexibility. Environmental design is critical for attention training. Your physical environment should support focus rather than undermine it. This means eliminating visual distractions, reducing noise, optimizing lighting, and organizing your space to minimize decision fatigue. Digital hygiene is essential in the modern world. Most people's attention has been hijacked by devices and applications specifically designed to capture and hold attention. Regaining control requires systematic changes to how you interact with technology. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Batch process emails and messages rather than responding immediately. Use website blockers during focus periods and create phone-free zones for deep work. The goal is to use technology intentionally rather than being used by it. Single tasking is a revolutionary concept in our multitasking world. But neuroscience clearly shows that the brain performs best when focused on one complex task at a time. What people call multitasking is actually rapid task switching, which reduces performance and increases mental fatigue. Commit to single tasking by choosing one important activity and giving it your complete attention until completion or until a predetermined time limit is reached. This might feel slow initially, but you'll accomplish far more with higher quality and less stress. The attention revolution begins with recognizing that your focus is your most valuable resource and that it can be trained systematically. Every moment of sustained focus strengthens your neural networks for attention, while every moment of distraction weakens them in our distracted world. The ability to maintain deep, sustained focus has become a superpower that separates high achievers from everyone else. Those who master attention master the ability to direct their consciousness intentionally rather than having it scattered by external forces. Chapter 10. Reprogramming your relationship with failure. Perhaps no aspect of neural programming has a greater impact on your success potential than your relationship with failure. Most people have been conditioned to view failure as something to be avoided at all costs, as evidence of inadequacy or as confirmation that they're not meant for success. This programming creates a brain that is risk-averse, opportunity-blind, and growth-resistant. Neuroscience research reveals that high achievers have